let's look at a couple of application problems. So example number 6 says that the parabola shows the path of your first golf shot. So this is our first shot over here in the parabola. And x is the horizontal distance in yards and y is the corresponding height. So we can see that we hit this shot 100 yards and at its peak it hit a height of 25 yards. The path of our second shot is modeled by an equation or a function, and it's f of x is equal to negative 0.02x times x minus 80. Now, let's figure out what version of the equation this is. It's definitely not standard form. I don't see anything that actually says x squared. It's also not my vertex form because I don't see any numbers tacked onto the back to give me a vertex. That leaves intercept form. But in order for this to really look like intercept form, I want to rewrite this x as x minus 0 because x minus 0 is the same thing as x, but now I can easily see that my p-value, my first x-intercept, is 0 and my q-value is at 80. So now what we want to know is which shot travels further before hitting the ground. So if I look at the parabola that is over here for my first shot, I can see that my graph goes 100 yards. So let's go ahead and say that the graph is 100 yards. Now, my equation gave me a q value of 80. So from my equation, I see that I went 80 yards because that's the time when it hits the ground or it hits a y value of 0. So based on that, 100 is bigger than 80. So it's the graph or my first shot that is going the furthest. So the graph of 100 yards is my first shot, and that's the one that goes the furthest. Now we want to know which one travels higher. Well, I know that my first shot traveled up to a peak height of 25 yards. So I need to figure out the vertex or the y value of my vertex for the equation. So we need the y value of the vertex. So from my graph, my first shot, my graph says that it was 25 yards, but I need to figure out what it is for my equation. So let's go ahead and work through this. So I know that I can get the x value of my vertex, which is the same as my axis of symmetry, by doing p plus q over 2. So that's going to be 0 plus 80 over 2, or a value of 40 yards. Now, in order to get the y value, I have to plug into my equation. So I'm going to take 40 yards and plug it in everywhere up here that I see x. So y is equal to negative 0.02 times 40, and then times 40 minus 80. If you put all of that in your calculator, you're going to come up with a value of 32. So y is equal to 32 yards, and that is my biggest or highest shot. It goes up 32 yards, even though it only went out by 80 yards. So my second shot is my highest shot.